Joining us now is Laraine Bennett, author of The Little Way of Living with Less. Laraine, thanks so much for being with us again. How are you doing?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on.
Well, as you know, because we talked about this here at Catholic TV, we're huge fans of St. Thérèse, as she's our patroness, because Bishop Bree, when he became the CEO of Catholic TV, said, well, by the way, St. Thérèse is going to be our patroness. So she is, and we have some beautiful icons here. And so what makes her a good guide for living with less?
Well, St. Thérèse is a modern saint, and in fact, Pope Pius X, he called her the greatest modern saint. And she was actually raised in a pretty well-to-do, upper middle class home, and she had, beautiful things around her. So she had modern inventions. There's modern things that she found just naturally. She understood the allure of things as we do today, even more though now in spades, but yet she remained focused on what truly mattered to her. She wanted to become a great saint, and she remained singularly focused on the love of God. And she said the only good thing is to love God with all one's heart and to stay poor in spirit. And so this is what I wanted to take to guide my own journey through kind of detaching, downsizing, minimal living, and trying to declutter and all those good things that are, very popular trends today. But it's actually very, very difficult, and there's some, serious virtues involved in learning to let go. And so I turned to St. Thérèse to guide me in this process.
Totally understand what you're talking about, Lorraine. In the recent past, a popular phrase for decluttering was, does it bring you joy? And maybe if you could talk about this book, and does that rely on a similar process?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like that, the sparking joy phenomenon. But one of the things that sort of guide me, or which I suggest actually, is that we have an ideal for our homes that is truly a strong enough ideal that it will make it easier to kind of go through the tasks that we need to do to declutter and organize and downsize or whatever it is. So, for example, the ideal of creating a home that is open and welcome to all and generous, and we serve others with humility and all those virtues. So if our goal is a sufficient one, we can then embark on those tasks of trying to make our home fit that beautiful ideal that we've set for ourselves.
And it can be very challenging, Lorraine, to do that, because we become attached to some of these things, and we don't want to let them go. So how do we do that? And by doing that, how do we use your book and St. Thérèse as a model on how we can just let things go?
Yeah, well, actually, see, that's the thing that I describe in the book, our process. Like our family, we lived in a, typical suburban McMansion with, filled with stuff, and we had all our kids' trophies and all our kids' things, and the kids moved out, but they still wanted us to keep all this stuff, right? So, it's like, well, we're going to have to sell this house because we're not even living in this house, like the entire of the house. We lived in 10% of the house. It was basically a storage unit for our kids' stuff. And so, kind of downsizing and detaching from all these things, it was a tough project to do that. And so I was kind of like, well, what are the virtues that are involved? Like, I need to gain these virtues. And the virtues are like detachment and trust and simplicity and gratitude and poverty of spirit, all these virtues that were practiced so beautifully by St. Thérèse. So she guides us in each chapter. I have the wisdom of St. Thérèse guiding us in doing these things, detaching from our material possessions, trying to declutter our souls as well as our house and all that sort of thing.
It sounds like it's a practical and spiritual type of journey. And talk about that too, and how they can both help each other.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, like, it is a really tough project to try to detach from our material things. And there's always something, there's more and more that we're constantly being bombarded with many opportunities to buy. Just holding our phone in our hands, we'll get ads, on Instagram or whatever. But trying to grow in these virtues is the best way, I think. And it's not that we have to become, poor as in walking around in ragged clothes or, barefoot or something like that. But we do need to be poor in spirit, which means that internally we're detached from things. So things are not the most important thing to us. God should be the most important thing to us, which is, of course, what St. Thérèse is telling us constantly. So she guides us in this way. So in each chapter, I take a different virtue, but also talk about the wisdom of St. Thérèse and how she can guide us in this process that is both practical and spiritual.
Lorraine,
Here's a book.
how do we, today people equate happiness with material goods. What you have here, how do we use St. Thérèse and the way she lived her life to say, that's not what makes you happy?
Right. Well, and in fact, we found our society is not more happy as a result of all our accumulation of many, many things. We are not more happy. And so to find true joy, we do need to detach and become poor in spirit, as St. Thérèse said. And in fact, an interesting point is that clutter itself, the neuroscience has taught us that clutter makes us anxious. So the more things we have, the more anxious we're becoming. So it's actually, we will become more happy and have a sense of peace in our lives when we detach from so many things.
Lorraine, it's always a pleasure. Where could people get a copy of the book?
Oh, they can go to sophiainstitute.com and get a copy of the book right there.
And how about learning about your work?
About my work?
Yeah. Where can they find out more about you?
Oh, well, definitely Sophia Institute. There's other books that I've written or co-authored with my husband. And also on Amazon, there's some other books as well.
Well, Lorraine, you have a wonderful day and have a great weekend. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.